Everybody. Nice to see you, or some of you. Let's do a roll call and then, yeah. Start us off with a roll call. Do you want me to do it, Joyce, or do you want to do it? Is Joyce there?
Okay, we'll start this again. Amagashi.
Yeah.
Cleary.
Here.
Gorman. Here. Jetzer.
Here.
McKee.
Here.
Mertens.
Here.
Perry.
Hello.
Farmer Eden.
Here.
And Mr. Shimming. We have a quorum.
Great. So as Joyce mentioned in her email, I'm no longer going to be the chair. My time is up. I'm getting cut off. So I would warmly welcome somebody else on the committee. And Joyce, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 2 years. And we meet quarterly, as you might remember.
I'd like to nominate Mallory Gorman.
Is Mallory here?
I am here. I'm actually sitting in the room.
Oh,
I vacated
okay,
the basement.
great. Do we have a second?
Of course we have a second.
There
Second.
we go.
Jennifer, which position are you nominating Mallory for?
Mr. Chair.
Chair or vice
Chair.
chair?
For the chair.
Thank you.
The motion.
So we have a second.
Godwin, second the motion in the council
Okay.
chambers.
Yes.
Okay, and since we haven't had a chance to chat, Mallory, how excited about this are you?
Very excited.
I'm excited.
Great. Is there any way we can see the people in the room? Because I can't see y'all. Thank you. Mallory, could you just raise your hand so I can see which dot you want? All right, there you
Dot,
go.
can you see me?
Yes, I do. Great.
Perfect.
So, any discussion, any questions or concerns?
I'm just
Okay,
gonna-
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Olivia, we just have to ask if there's any more nominations from the floor 3 times, and then you can vote.
Oh. I have to ask just for this position.
Yep,
Okay.
3
Are
times.
there any further nominations for this position, the chair? And one more time, I will ask if there are any nominations for this position of the chair of the Housing Advisory Committee. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Any opposed?
This was a landslide.
Okay, the motion passes. Yay, Mallory.
Right? I just came out of the basement in time. That's wonderful.
So,
We'll let
are
you
we
take.
electing a vice chair as well?
Yeah, do the nomination for the vice chair, and then we'll let Mallory take it over, okay?
Okay, great. So, do we have any nominations for the vice chair of the Housing Advisory Committee? Generally, someone who can chair in Mallory's absence. Also support her in any, or the committee in any other ways that may be needed.
I nominate Marshall Martins.
I second the nomination.
Okay, thank you guys.
Do we have any other nominations for vice chair? Anybody else who would like to be vice chair? Don't be shy, raise your hand. Okay, all in favor of Marshall being the vice chair?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Oh, I forgot to ask you, Michelle. Michelle, are you okay with that?
I am. So Mallory and I have to
Now.
get together and
Yeah,
talk about things.
We're done.
Okay.
I did forget about that. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you all. That's wonderful. Well, I'll turn it over to the new chair and the new vice chair. Thank you, everybody.
And thank you, Olivia, for being a wonderful chairperson. So let's move on to agenda item number 4, approval of minutes. We have the approval of the March 13th minutes.
I moved to
You moved to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Perfect. Item number 5 is,
We gotta vote.
oh, sorry. I just want to move fast on this.
I know.
Let's keep going. Okay. Can, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. The minutes have been approved. How did I do on my first item?
So far, so
Thank you.
Nice
Edwin.
going.
Okay, good. Public appearances, I don't think we have any public appearances for non-agenda items.
I'm just gonna, quick pipe in here and ask if Bill, our new member, Bill is our new, alder. Would you like to give a little, update for us, Bill, on who you are and what you know?
Yeah, so I am a brand-new alder. I am sitting in District 2, Seat 3. This is Julia's old seat. And, well, this is my first time in politics, and I'm glad to be here. And I think I will enjoy my time here on the Housing Advisory Committee. There are some challenges ahead of pretty much seemingly every city in the country, housing-wise. So I look forward to, helping this committee make recommendations for healthy, climate-resilient city of Fitchburg. Some of the things that I would like to see us move toward include some higher density housing with retail. I would like walkable neighborhoods. This is something that I think everybody who's ever gone on a vacation to Europe is like, oh, it was so wonderful. Everything was right there. We didn't have to take a car for anything. And then they come home and they get in their car for every single thing. So I would like to see, walkable, bikeable neighborhoods, corner stores, that sort of thing. Everybody should be within easy distance of work, school, groceries, restaurants, doctors, some strong subset of those things. And I think, we've got wonderful transit plans and comprehensive plans, and if you read them, you think, oh man, this is perfect. And then when you see the actual implementation, sometimes you wonder, why aren't we following all of the policies in here? So, we're building along the rail corridor, but who's pushing for that rail to actually carry passengers back and forth, And according to the transit plan, every new development should be within a quarter-mile walking distance of a bus stop, and I don't know that that is the case either. And I think 2023 is shaping up to be quite a year with 3 new TIF districts. So, yeah, I guess I hope we can make good things happen.
Hey, use your microphone. Use the mic. Mic check. Good to go? All right, wonderful. First and foremost, welcome and congratulations. Honored to have you here. You talked a lot about some of the things that you would like to have happen, but can you tell me a little bit about some of your background and what you did for a career or what you still are doing currently?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Plymouth, Wisconsin, which I guess the reason you would have heard of that is probably because of Sargento cheese or, Johnsonville brats. Johnsonville is just a few miles outside of Plymouth. I went to school at UW Stevens Point. I studied physics and math there. I've got 2 bachelor's degrees. Moved to Madison in the mid-90s. and we've been here ever since. My entire career is in information technology. I worked a few years at Epic and before moving on. Primarily, I spend my days inside of databases and financial software, but I've got interest in, well, everything I mentioned before, walkable, livable cities. So I want to do everything I can to make that happen.
Amazing, thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Maybe we could all just introduce ourselves to
I would love that.
Mr. Jetzer, and I just want to clarify that you live in Fitchburg, correct, and not Madison?
Yes, correct.
Okay, I just had to clarify
yeah.
that, you.
I hope I said the
We
Madison
wa-
area, because I did.
No, just you said Madison,
Oh,
so I
okay.
thought I better correct you,
No,
Make
I
sure
live-
you're legit.
I live
here.
over on Richardson Street, just on the other side of McKee Farms Park.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Do you want to start, Nate?
Certainly. Hello, everybody. My name is Nate Farmer Eden. Elevator pitch, background in social work with a master's degree. September will make 9 years that I've been at Seven Oaks, as well as Maple Lawn Apartments, located here in Fitchburg. I do a plethora of different things, anything ranging from after-school programs for youth, adult computer classes, nutrition classes, credit repair, a ton of different things here. So I came over from working with Olivia and a few other people from another committee and was appointed to join this committee. Must be almost going on a year now, and so far I'm loving it. So thank you all so much for having me.
Mike Zimmerman, Economic Development Director, been with the city 27 years.
Brian McKee, a lifelong resident of Fitchburg. I'm a builder, developer, general contractor. Work in Wisconsin, Illinois, the UP, Minnesota, Iowa as a general contractor, but primarily work on single-family custom homes in the Madison-Dane County market.
Joyce Fry, Economic Development Specialist. I've worked for the city for 26 years and probably going to be your worst nightmare.
I am Godwin Amagashi. I am retired. But prior to retiring, I had the blessing of having two careers. I was a banker for many, many years. I was a banker for about 29 years. And then it turned out after I left M&I and worked for the Department of Administration as the director of the state's Minority Business Program, which I ran for 19 years. I just retired about 4 years ago, and I'm enjoying siesta very well, and so that's good to know. So there is something to look forward to the future, my dear friend. So that's it. But I think I'm excited about living in Fitchburg. We've been in Fitchburg for 18 years, and we like it out here. And so whatever is going to make Fitchburg very unique for us is something we want to ensure that we help make it that way.
My name's Mallory Gorman. I'm retired. I'm a tax attorney from Baker Tilly. I've lived in Fitchburg for 35 years, I think now. We have one of the oldest contiguous farms in Fitchburg. I married a man whose family came from Ireland and then settled here a long time ago. We also do affordable housing all over the U.S., specifically using the Section 42 tax credit. That's mainly my husband's endeavor. So we've been developing that since the mid-'80s.
One more thing I wanted to just talk about. I sit on the CDBG Commission for the county. So this gives our city an opportunity to take a look at other things that happen.
We can't hear you.
Oh, my apologies. Can you hear me now? You didn't push the button.
No.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I sit on the Dane County CDBG Commission. We do a lot of things, including making sure that money goes to several of the communities in and around Dane County. My hope, obviously, is people in Fitchburg take advantage of that, because there are other communities that we've sent lots of money to. So I hope we're watching what's happening, and whatever we need to do to help the city of Fitchburg, we'll do that.
People on the screen, do you want to introduce yourselves?
I'll go first. I'm Marshall Mertens, and I'm a resident of Fitchburg. I came back here about 5 years ago after I retired to be closer to my grandchildren. My background is a bachelor's degree in anthropology and an MBA, both from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. I am a retired affordable housing developer with my development experience in King County, Washington State. So.
I can go next. Olivia Perry, Senior Planner at the Dane County Planning and Development Department. I primarily work in housing as a housing planner, and I'm currently overseeing something called the Dane County Regional Housing Strategy, a year-long strategic planning process with the Dane County cities, villages, and towns, and other stakeholders, developers, and banks to develop a strategic action plan for the next 3 to 5 years to address the housing shortage, the affordable housing crisis, and the housing shortage.
And I'm Jennifer Clary. I am a resident in Fitchburg, District 2. This is Camila. She's 4 weeks old, so sorry. She's going to be joining us for the duration here. So I also am part of CEDA, and I am a appraiser and a real estate agent with Realty Executives Cooper Swansea. Been a resident from Fitchburg for about 5 years, and yeah.
Okay. Well, wonderful. Well, welcome. Moving on, I don't believe we have any resolutions or ordinances that need to be addressed. Is that correct, Joyce? Yep. Okay. I think we now have a program update. Abigail Corso, is she on? Yep. Wonderful. With regard to the Sustain Dane Elevate Efficiency Navigator Program. Abigail? There you are. Hi there.
Hi.
Are you welcome?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for inviting us. My colleague, John Viner, is also here. He is the program manager for our Efficiency Navigator work here in Wisconsin. And we are, Elevate is a not-for-profit organization. We are focused on affordable housing and upgrading that housing for efficiency, electrification, and solar in order to make it more kind of energy efficient, so reduce costs and more resilient. And we were asked to give a presentation about an update on the work that we're doing in the city of Middleton with the Efficiency Navigators. So I am here to do that. Our partner organization, Sustain Dane, could not be here today. Claire sent her apologies, but we're here kind of in her stead. So can I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Sure. Okay, great. Alrighty. Okay, hang on a minute. Again. Here we go. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Great. So the Efficiency Navigator program is a program that Elevate and Sustain Dane established, starting with the city of Madison, to help kind of small multifamily housing become more efficient and resilient. And this housing stock is not subsidized, so it's not part of the tax credit program. It's not subsidized by HUD. It is in private ownership or nonprofit ownership for the most part. And it's generally small and is not, well represented in efficiency programs because even though you see it everywhere, it's really hard to connect with the owners. And there's a lot of it in our county. So we felt, working with Sustain Dane, we wanted to fill this gap to preserve this affordable housing, which throughout the county is actually 50% of our affordable housing stock, countywide. So we want to preserve this housing. We want to keep rents at fair market value. We want to improve climate resilience. So that's adding solar in many cases. We're doing energy efficiency in all the buildings that need it to improve comfort and indoor air quality. We're, endeavoring to work in kind of under-resourced census tracts, and we're connecting workforce with this because we're working with, local contractors by and large. So just a little history. We did start in Madison a couple years ago, and we're just completing, we have 84 units completed there. We're working on our next tranche of units. So we're currently filling that pipeline now. We're kind of launching in Middleton, or we've launched in Middleton. Middleton is taking a little bit of a different approach. They want to do much less units, but they want to go deeper and do a lot of demonstration work. And I'll kind of talk a little bit about that in the upcoming slides. And then we are starting to work with the city of Eau Claire and to do some demonstration work kind of in that city. Because they also have a lot of affordable housing. As you can imagine, the housing stock does vary, and so our approach in each city has been tailored to kind of the needs of that city. So for the city of Middleton, their objective...
Abigail?
Yes.
Yeah, question. When you're working in Eau Claire, is there a Sustain Dane analog over there?
There is not right now. We've been, starting to work with some nonprofit owners, but we have not identified a comparable organization there. We'd like to, for sure. So I'll just and feel free and ask questions if that's kind of okay with the chair. So our objectives for the city of Middleton, they want to demonstrate a whole home resiliency approach. So they really want to focus on efficiency, decarbonization, and in this case is air source heat pumps, so electrification, and solar. They want to complete projects kind of in this hard to reach naturally occurring affordable housing, but our eligibility requirements are a little bit more narrow than the city of Madison. We're looking at much smaller buildings, 2 to 8 units, all renter occupied, unsubsidized. Looking at buildings where the tenants actually pay for the gas and the electric utilities. So looking at less central systems here. We are requiring owners to sign a community benefits agreement to maintain rents at or below HUD fair market value for 5 years in order to preserve the stock as affordable once the upgrades are completed. Just as a kind of aside, we have that same community benefits agreement in the city of Madison, and all of the units that have come through that program, the owners have signed that. It's a 3-year agreement in Madison, and we have not had any owners kind of back out because of that. So we're finding, owners who are self-selecting into the programs, have a real good commitment to affordable housing. So a little bit, we've talked a little bit about eligibility. The program benefits, because we're going really deep in these buildings in Middleton, we're offering owners a grant of about $60,000 per building for the energy upgrades. And then there's no cost to those owners for Sustain, Gain, and Elevate services. And what we provide them is the energy assessment. We help with project scoping. We help identify contractors if they don't have a contractor that they're already working with. And we help with kind of contractor management. So getting everything scheduled, getting the contractors in, at the times that they're supposed to be, in a sequence that makes sense for the building upgrade.
Is the city of Middleton connecting you to the building owners, or are you finding them by yourself?
So we're working with the city, with a local organization called MOM, who is connected mainly in the senior community. And then Sustain Dane is leading the outreach. So it's a combination of, organizations that are working on outreach to the owners. So currently, it's a small program. We do have 10 units in this pipeline. We'll be deploying about $200,000 in grants as part of our first, couple buildings. And then also, aligning it with this community benefits agreement. And the grant money is coming from two sources. The city of Middleton has allocated some of their ARPA funds to the program. And then we are bringing philanthropy to the program as well. And the philanthropic dollars are paying for a portion of the upgrades, but also for a portion of Elevate and Sustain Dane time. So, we worked really hard to put the program design together with the city. We just kind of launched this year. So we have applications in 7 properties. We're starting to complete our assessments. We are delivering, assessment reports right now for 4 of the properties, and are moving to start scheduling upgrade work. So we're continuing to do recruitment. We are, working with our contractors on scoping. Our goal is to have, work, a good portion of the work completed this year, even though Middleton, is looking at this as a multi-year program. And we'll be hopefully, as we get this work scheduled, being able to demonstrate kind of energy savings and resiliency in the small buildings that we're working in. So just a flavor of the type of properties that we're seeing. These are small, like duplexes by and large. There's a picture of them off to your right. There's a lot of efficiency, just general efficiency work that's needed. And there's also a lot of kind of indoor air quality work needed. So in a lot of these buildings, where not only are we, doing the efficiency work, the insulation, but we're also having to do work with ventilation and fans to really improve the indoor air quality. We are looking at heat pumps in a number of these buildings and solar as well. And as you can kind of see at the Spring Grove and the Northbrook buildings, once we add solar on, we're experiencing, we're estimating pretty deep energy savings and estimated cost savings. And these are 2 buildings that have come through Madison, just to kind of show some of the work that we have completed, and kind of the cost savings and the carbon savings that these buildings will be realizing as they as they continue to use their new equipment. And that is all I have for you as far as slides today. I'm happy to take questions if there's time, and or share I'll share these slides with Joyce as well. If you'd like the slides.
Abby, I just have a quick question.
Sure.
You worked in Madison for a few years. Is there like, do you have a time frame that you work with the municipality, or is it ongoing? Like, is there an MOU, or how does that relationship? How do you ground that relationship, or what's the framework for that relationship?
So we've been working kind of like year by year right now based on funding availability. Ideally, we would like to, make the programs self-sustaining within the city, part of the city, either planning department or housing program. So we have been having those conversations with Madison on, a sustainable funding source so that it's integrated into some of their, like their affordable housing fund program. So, but right now we've been fortunate to have several, grants, and then in Madison, we're also working, using ARPA funds, and they've also allocated a tranche of CDBG funds to the program. So we're working using those two sources as well as philanthropy that we've raised.
Have you talked to anybody at the county and the CDBG department about potentially using CDBG funds?
We have not. Would you like to talk about it at some point?
That would be great. That'd be great. We should connect. Are you going to be at the next regional housing strategy meeting?
I will be, yes.
Okay, because I can introduce you to a couple folks. Okay, great.
Okay, great. Thank you, Olivia.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have a question for you. So your building owner, do you have a typical profile for the building owner? You said they're in Middleton. You said there are 4 to 8 unit buildings that you're involved with?
Two to 8 is eligible for the program. A lot of the owners are, they're small businesses. They own maybe a couple of buildings, and they're within like a limited liability corporation structure. We do have I know at least one owner that is a nonprofit organization.
Yeah, I heard you mention that. I was kind of curious.
Yeah, they're in they're Commonwealth Development. They are a Madison owner. John, do you have any nonprofit owners in Middleton that are in the program at this point?
We do not.
Yeah.
Currently. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So they're all small for-profit owners.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else have any questions for Abigail? No? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I pushed the button, it just didn't go. All right. So tell me about the properties you're working with. These were chosen because they were eligible, or because they were the eligible ones that were most in need of improvements? And like, how were these heated and cooled and such? Are there some more details? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so the owners, it's, we have just a call for buildings out there. We have, very clear eligibility requirements for the buildings that we can bring through the program. And so owners that, can self-select into the program, they fill out a web form, and we do an intake call with them to, ensure that they're meeting the eligibility requirements. So it's kind of an open call for buildings, that are in the city of Middleton. And so similar for the way we work in Madison, but because of that Madison is, just a larger community, more stock. We have taken kind of a neighborhood approach in Madison, where we've, our first 84 units, primarily came from the north side of Madison, and then a couple on the southeast side. So now we're opening the program up to kind of more neighborhoods this year.
Okay. Abby, this is Joyce. So my question is, I'm assuming, and I probably shouldn't assume, but that you work really closely with the municipality to kind of determine what it is that we're really looking for, set goals, and then maybe do some identifying of the property. And when you guys came before, we talked about that we have these healthy neighborhoods that, that we would want to focus on in our first round of looking at property. So I just want to confirm that, yes, that's one thing.
Yes, with both Madison and Middleton and Eau Claire, you know, we did a little bit of a kind of a landscape, you know, ecosystem scan of the housing types and volumes, and we worked really closely with each city to develop those eligibility requirements. Because, like, as you know, for instance, like in the city of Madison, the buildings are a bit larger, but in Middleton, they're smaller, and in Eau Claire, a lot of their NOAA stock is actually single family. So we really worked with each city to kind of tailor the parameters of the program, and then and also, like, you know, like in the case of Madison, the geography too. So yes.
I just have a quick question. I noticed that some of the properties were on Troy Drive. I live off of Troy Drive. How many properties did you do on Troy Drive?
John, do you recall how many you've looked at there?
No, not exactly, though. Many on the north side near Troy.
Yeah.
Troy Drive. I think our focus was there. So if it was, I mean, the majority of the housing was Warner Park, Brentwood Avenue, and Troy Drive, I guess near Kennedy Heights area,
Right,
et cetera.
yeah.
So a large majority was certainly within those neighborhoods.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Middleton. Did you have another question, Godwin, or no?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I'm just curious of the fact that you had Madison in your as one of the entities that you dealt with, and now you're dealing with Middleton. And not long after that, you went up in the northern part of the state. So why did you do that kind of movement, really? Why wasn't, say, Fitchburg and some prairie, the closer communities, why were they not the ones you were looking at? Is there any reason for it?
We've actually been, you know, talking with Fitchburg and talking with Sun Prairie too. And then in Eau Claire, we are doing some work up north as well with some of the First Nations. So, Ned Knoll in Eau Claire had an interest in trying to figure this out for his community. So yeah, so we are talking to other communities in Dane County, and would, want to continue to do so for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Marshall?
I was wondering if you've got Middleton with the small sized units and Madison with larger properties. Have you found the program works better with a particular size than it does? I know when I developed economies of scale, said too small doesn't work. Larger looks a little better, but sometimes large kind of runs out of funds. So didn't know if you found a happy mix as to what unit size it works best on.
I think in Madison, it's that kind of 8 to 12 unit building is kind of a sweet spot here, because there's so many of those type of buildings, and but yes, they do typically require more resources. I will say though, the grant program is structured differently in Madison, where we're offering a grant of $25,000 per building. So, if a 4 unit comes in, it's this, it's the same as if an 8 unit comes in. Where again, Middleton has really taken the approach that they want to offer a lot of grant money to a stock that, that small kind of 2 to 8 unit stock, where there's many units in Middleton, and it's been underserved, and they wanted to go deeper. So that's an example of we were just working with each city a little differently based on like their goals and objectives, what they wanted out of the program.
Any additional questions?
Yeah. Abigail, so the work you're doing in Eau Claire, is that related at all to their sustainability plan? And I guess as a follow-up, are you using these retrofitted buildings to kind of light a fire under developers who maybe haven't wanted to build more energy efficient homes from the get-go? Maybe, get people started building passive house type structures so that they would never need such a retrofit in the future?
So the first question around the sustainability plan, it is not part of the sustainability plan, but certainly it checks a box of one of the goals of the sustainability plan. So it is, it does work together with, their planning documents. And then, yes, I think, this is very much in Eau Claire particularly, it is very much demonstration work to just really highlight, that these existing buildings, these affordable existing buildings can be upgraded, and we can, make them not only more energy efficient, but more resilient, by, reducing kind of the fossil fuel use. So, yeah, very much demonstration there, and hopefully, it will move the retrofit market there. I think on the new construction side, where they would want hopefully look more at passive house. I think that there is a bit of work to be done, kind of there, but we are finding like the new construction work we are doing, and it's not necessarily in Eau Claire, but the new construction work in Dane County. There's a lot of movement by by those developers to become more sustainable with more sustainable systems.
Thank you very much, Abigail and John.
Oh,
Appreciate the
thanks for having
information.
us.
I think the next agenda item then is Olivia giving us an update with regard to the Dane County Regional Housing Strategy.
So I first have to apologize. I don't have a presentation today. I've been out for the last week and few days. So my first break since the regional housing strategy started. So I have not had a chance to update a presentation. And I'm happy to give you a full update and presentation at our next meeting if it's appropriate. But so I will just share with you that we have had 8 meetings out of 11. We have the last 3 meetings coming up, June, July, and August. And we typically have anywhere from 50 to 60 people, cities, towns, and villages, Realtors Association, a number of realtors, banks, WIDA, housing providers, local government staff. So it's been a very robust process. And we are now kind of in the phase where we're trying to refine the strategies for the strategic action plan. The overall purpose of the strategic action plan is that, there are all different things that we can do to address the housing crisis and the shortage of housing and affordable housing, but we don't have a silver bullet. And so the idea is that if we can take a step back, look at what we're doing, assess, kind of inventory, and then streamline and identify strategies that we want to work on and work towards together, we will have a much greater impact than if we were all doing something alone or siloed and not communicating with each other. So there are some core values that the regional housing strategy identified as part of the sort of basing their vision on, and that is equity, sustainability, economic growth, affordability, empowerment. The Housing Advisory Committee felt very strong about the fact that people feel empowered, whether you're a resident or you're a local elected official or you are a banker. People feel empowered to engage in this work. and then access to services. I'm not remembering the exact phrase, but these are core values. Racial equity, as I said before, equity is a very important part of this work. There are 5 major areas that, 5 major sort of priorities that the strategies will be articulated under. The 5 priorities are increase the number of overall units, increase the number of affordable units, expand resources, housing and resources to those of the most vulnerable population, and then the next one is, hold on one second. I've been out of the office, as I said, for a little while. Here, I'll just read it to you off the slide here, which I can't share. Or I guess I could, but no. Let me see here. So two other priorities really came up, and we're going to try and figure out a way to include them throughout the strategies that will be underlying each of those priorities. And those are sustainability and racial equity. Let me see here. The 5, yeah. I think I'm gonna just hold off on that. So, and the other thing the committee identified through the use of a community housing survey, we did a countywide housing survey and we got over 5,000 respondents, really talking about preferences, tried to get a sense of who people were. And all in all, I think it was 98 or 99% of the people who responded from all income levels, all municipalities, and organizations said that they feel that housing, most people said that people should have access to housing. They also identified all the partners they thought that should be involved in solving this challenge, addressing this challenge. And that is local governments, nonprofits, the private sector, residents, and and they felt that it's really important for all of those people to have a role. So I think as part of the strategies, we're going to be trying to make sure we identify roles for each of those groups. The project team sort of laid out the toolkit over a number of meetings, and then the kinds of things that we should be considering when we're coming up with these tools or strategies. And that's capacity building, financial tools, land use tools, zoning, and communication and education. So I think those are going to sort of the types of tools that the kind of buckets that the strategies are going to fall into. We're going to be, they've been doing a lot of brainstorming, lots of ideas, but I think the consultants are really going to want to make the Housing Advisory Committee kind of focus and get specific, because we're talking about the next 3 to 5 years. So that's going to be the challenge of the next couple meetings. We're going to be finished in August. We won't have a report in August. We'll probably have a report by October. So we'll have a kind of a launching. We'll end in August, and then kind of kick it off probably in October, maybe early November, with the report being widely distributed. We'll also have a video accompanying the report. We've had all of the sessions videotaped over the last 8 months, 9 months. So they're going to compile that and turn that into a video. I will tell you that a couple of things have come up in the process. Many of you probably know Chad Lawler, who's the executive director of the Madison Area Builders Association. He shared with us at a DCHI meeting and then subsequently at a Regional Housing Strategy Network meeting, committee meeting, Housing Advisory Committee meeting, that he said in a DCHI meeting, he said, basically right now what I'm seeing from my developers, where they're telling me, and this is a rough estimate, if we had 10 to 15,000 people in the workforce, in the construction industry workforce, they could be hired today. So he said it's really great, this work. He was really supportive of the regional housing strategy and felt this is a really important effort that we're making. But unless we're kind of figuring out how to address the lack of that construction supply And I think that probably runs the gamut from skilled to unskilled labor. We're going to be doing a lot more wanting and hoping than we are going to be implementing. So I think that Housing Advisory Committee is, I'm sensing that they're going to, kind of say, include a study or an inventory around or an assessment of the supply and the demand, and some recommendations as to what levers we can pull to, to expand or increase the housing supply. And that could range from everything there. I've had a lot of experience in the last 6 or 7 years hearing this. And so I can share with you, I know that there's some of them that are very small, and then, they could, be all the way up to, having a dedicated, visa program to attract or bring more workers into the construction industry workforce in Dane County. So that's one thing that's sticking out. And I think the other thing that's sticking out is, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit in terms of updating people's zoning codes. And I've been reaching out to municipalities in the last few weeks to kind of get a sense of what that potentially could look like. And some municipalities are about to kind of do have already put a CI, 150,000 in their CIP and community improvement plan, and are planning to do a whole update. And then other municipalities have already done one. And so I'm kind of getting some feedback that it might be helpful if we did something like, hiring a consultant or, to kind of give best practices on a range of zoning updates that people, municipalities could work off of. I can ask you guys, and I should ask you, Joyce and Mike, one of the things that I was floating by municipalities is, would you, because someone said, I don't have the money, I said, would you like me to, should we do a build program for zoning updates, and almost everybody said, thank you, but no thank you. We're already in the process, or we've got something, but if you gave us something that, if you gave us this, detailed guide around some of the core zoning updates that would be helpful to, meet this increased supply and increased number of affordable housing units or preservation, then that would be really helpful. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I think that's all I can share with you right now. San's presentation, and I apologize. I don't have a full-blown presentation today.
But a ton of information. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Sure.
I think the next agenda item then is with regard to our September meeting. And Joyce, you're going to have to fill me in. We're talking about neighborhood visits.
Yeah, so this is something that is something that I guess I discussed with Olivia, and Mike and I had the idea that we thought maybe at our September meeting and possibly another meeting, maybe August 14th, where we would go out to the 4 neighborhoods, our healthy neighborhoods, and do a walk-around assessment based upon what we see. Because we really want to confirm, before we actually put policies in place, yes, this is where we want to utilize our dollars in the energy efficiency. And then also, I'm going to give another plug for the sprinklers. If you saw over the weekend, we had another fire, and it, could be something that might be preventable by having just, some fire safety installed in some of our older units. So we kind of wanted to get your feedback on if that's something you think would be beneficial. So what we would do is we would have our building inspection, fire department kind of give us an idea of different areas that they see concerns. So maybe we're going to go out and see that such and such a building needs maybe weatherization, what we can see from the outside versus really, there may be a couple buildings that we just kind of do a walkthrough if we get owner permission, but we really want to make sure that we understand what it is that the neighborhood needs versus thinking we know what the neighborhood needs. Does that make sense? And we want to reaffirm it. And we also talked a little bit, well, I guess I talked to Olivia, that we want to make sure the resources that we're going to utilize fall in line with what the county's trying to do as well with affordable housing. So I think this would be a really good exercise, because sometimes I think actually getting a visualization really helps. And maybe there's something we're going to see on our visit that we need to address. Maybe we're going to see lighting as an issue, or, you know, some other type of neighborhood thing that we should make an awareness about. So we just kind of wanted to get everybody's feedback on if they think that's a worthwhile project. Because we'd like to do 2 meetings, probably an hour-ish, little less with travel time, to each one of the neighborhoods, and just, you know, as a collective group, walk around and have everybody take some notes, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. So we're just wondering what you think about that idea.
And also the idea of a extra meeting, possibly on, it was August 14th, I think we were looking at. Yeah. And then we would probably do Southdale and Fish Hatchery Road one evening, and then we would do Belmar and Jamestown in another night.
So why are we not talking to the homeowners, people who own the properties, to be part of the desire to just take a look at how well some of our neighborhoods are? I mean, if we went there as a group, we'd be looking at that, but my hope is that if you also have owners of the property, you probably need to have them come along with us so that we work as a team.
It feels like to me that there could be several stages to this process. Back from my community development days, going into communities and that were definitely in need, you know, it's sometimes good just to get a windshield survey of what you're actually thinking and talking about, and kind of just wrapping your head around, you know, especially for people on this committee who are not familiar with those neighborhoods, have never been there. And then it's also important to, you know, as community developers, to actually have conversations with the, you know, some of the residents and what their experience is, because they might have thoughts and feelings that really, you know, like it's a great neighborhood, but, you know, my kids don't have any place to play, or it's dangerous to cross the street, or, you know, so, and then it certainly, absolutely, Godwin, you know, you're right. We need to have a conversation with the building owners, but I don't think all of those things have to happen at once. And I think if we're trying to figure out how best to serve the healthy neighborhoods objectives or policies that have been laid out, a windshield survey doesn't seem like it would be out of, you know, inappropriate.
I guess our thought process is we don't want to have any owners think we're picking on them, or, you know, we want to just have, we want to have an objective look at what we're thinking, based upon what, you know, there has been a consensus by this group probably from day one that we really need to work on kind of upgrading our existing housing stock to make sure that it's code compliant, it's safe, and it's healthy. So we want to just make sure that whatever programming we come up with, you know, there is an interest in doing the Efficiency Navigator program with an element on the emphasis, I guess, on, you know, fire safety, because that's really important to Mike and I. If we're going to put, you know, resources, public resources into something, it should be something tangible like life-saving. So that's why we decided it would be just more of a neighborhood walk around and observations.
Can I ask a question, Brian? You're a developer. How do you feel Because eventually the changes and things we're looking for will come from people like you. Do you want to be left out of this whole thing and we decide, oh, we need to do X, Y, Z, or do we try to, go up to you from the point of the starting point to make sure that, look, we want to make sure that your properties are good. We want to make sure that everybody out here is in a very, very, nice place. Can we talk together as a group? You tell me, what do you think?
Well, I think the big difference we're talking about is older existing housing stock that was built to different fire code, different energy code, and different building code from 30, 40, 50 years ago. The stuff we build nowadays is probably double, if not triple, more energy efficient than homes built just 20 years ago.
Okay.
Same thing with multifamily, apartment buildings, everything. Fire code is much different than it was 20, 30 years ago. Fire sprinklers are required in any building over 4 units. So I think the initiative that we're talking about here is more for existing housing stock. And I don't know if it would necessarily be the conversation with developers as it would be the building owners. And I kind of agree that we need to do an assessment first to see what those buildings in those areas need, and then analyze, okay, what's the best path forward for that? I know that there are a couple of state laws that have been put into place a few years ago that require fire departments to track where fires happen in multifamily buildings and the age of those buildings. Because there's a lot of push to have more fire retardant systems and more fire sprinklers in multifamilies and even in single-family homes. But this tracking that's required by the fire departments, there's data out there. I think we would just have to ask for that information, is to find out at what age and what code those buildings that are burning were built to. And those should be the focus of what we need to do with any kind of initiative with this.
Interesting.
And hopefully a follow-up to the walk-around would be maybe a decision by this group and the policymakers to engage with Elevate and Sustain Dane to do then more of the individual kind of property owner kind of interview and intake there that gets into more of that detailed conversation about more specific project need and also their level of interest in participating in a program. I think that's where we're headed, kind of, and maybe deciding what amount of resources would we like to put in that bucket out of our housing, TID for housing dollars that we have available. And we're hoping not to, say, bias anybody's perspective. We want really to walk around and have people kind of write down their observations kind of individually, and then we'll come back as a group and kind of review those observations and just get different people's perspectives of kind of what drew attention, to them, and maybe areas of need that they've identified.
Would it be possible for you to put together just like a little summary of, what the buildings are we look at, number of units, the kind of, that are will be in our walking tour?
Probably work with Jack.
Sure, we can put together like, like blocks, are you talking about? Like, okay, we're gonna go to the XYZ block of Smith Road and look at, some 4 units or 16 units or.
Right, I mean, I'm assuming you might, or are we just gonna kind of do a neighborhood scan as opposed to individual buildings?
Right. I think
Okay,
we need to do
gotcha.
a neighborhood scan because I think,
Gotcha.
the question that I asked her is, how do you determine, the eligibility? And she said she works with the community. So this would be a start for us to kind of look at, okay, what are we looking at as far as a community where we believe that there's the biggest need? And when you walk around, you'll be able to see.
Right.
Nate, I kind of would like to have your input from, because you talk with a lot of residents, if we were to engage with somebody on the street, do you think they'd even talk to us?
Mic check. Good to go? All right. I don't know. I mean, that's really kind of I don't want to use the term like loaded question. Are you going to catch them on a good day? I mean, you never know. But I think this topic is definitely worth attempting to have the conversation.
Yes.
But one question, I guess, before I really dive deep into it is, can you two kind of give an idea of what it is that you would like to look for? For instance, let's just take a random 4 unit. Are we going in and trying to inspect to see if they've got fire extinguishers and how frequent are they getting checked? Are we looking for tree branches? Like, what types of things, I guess to sort of piggyback off of Olivia's question, would really be what it is that we're looking for and analyzing from the outside and then the interior as well?
If I can answer that question, I think the things that if we're looking at increasing the efficiency and the sustainability of some of the older buildings, we're actually probably going to have a survey form from the building owner of what the furnace is that's in that building, or what the boiler is in that building, and how energy efficient it is. We're going to have to look at, okay, if that building was built in 1978 and has single pane windows in it, the R value of those windows was nothing compared to what you can get nowadays. Attic ceiling insulation, minimum requirement back then was like R19 in the attic. Minimum now is R50. So those are the things that I think as a survey form, we're going to have to kind of create a survey form for anyone who wants to apply for this, the criteria essentially. Here's what my building has, and frankly, we got to pick the worst ones to get the most bang for the buck, period. And I think that's what we got to look at. And doing the neighborhood walkthrough is going to be great. We'll be able to see some things, if they're doing maintenance on the shingles, the siding, the windows. You can tell if they're, wood windows that haven't been painted. Obviously, they're probably older windows. So those are the things I think as a neighborhood walk around we can see from the outside. But to really get a true feel of where we should spend the money, we're probably going to have to do some kind of survey form of multifamily property owners of older stock to find out what's in those buildings and where we get the most bang for the buck.
And I will just say, I think that Joyce's conversation, our conversation was also, that initiated, I think, part of this is really sort of an educational opportunity for the Housing Advisory Committee, because not everyone knows those neighborhoods or is familiar with those neighborhoods, or maybe perhaps some of the, buildings that we're talking about or areas we're talking about. So that's sort of part of it as well, I think.
I think the other resource that we wanted to, in person to include on the tours is Jack Pearson from our building inspection department. So as we're walking around the neighborhood, he's really kind of our person on the ground that is familiar with, hey, this building has already done some upgrades and improvements to it and has, reinvested in their property. This property, probably hasn't been, reinvested in since the 1970s. So we're hoping that he can kind of give us a little bit of a 30,000-foot overview and perspective. And then, as Brian pointed out, hopefully if this group ultimately decides and we take it forward to the council and the policymakers to put some dollars into kind of working with Elevate and Sustain Dane, then they start to do that kind of intake and interview process that gets into the more details and eventually applicants for the program there. But I think we'd like to get a feel for just kind of walking around, what kind of dollar amount do we think we should even, we've got now probably close to $8 million. We're getting another infusion of $600,000 from the Southdale TID that just is closing this year. So we'll be close to $8 million in our bucket. So we've got, again, multiple tracks that we're going down. One is energy efficiency rehabilitation. One is the rent to own. And then the third one is affordable units within market rate housing. And kind of maybe in this bucket of efficiency and renovation reinvestment, including hopefully fire safety, that what would be kind of a dollar amount we want to start with, even. And we can always add more, to it if we go through and it's getting, good interest and good usage. And, we've seen some, good reports as far as the improvements and efficiencies that are made. We can always add to or replenish the fund. But Joyce and I, we'd like to get this group getting started to actually doing something with those housing dollars and putting them to work. And we think this is one that there seems to be a pretty good consensus around across this group, but also with our elected officials and policymakers. So now it's a matter of how do we structure that program, working with our partners, and what resources do we want to dedicate on the outset here.
I like the word you
launch
use,
something.
partners, because that's how I see many of our, the owners of the properties. I mean, they certainly want to, I think it's in our best interest for them to feel, oh, this city is trying to make sure that we upgrade and things of that nature. If there's funding, fine. If there's any other thing to deal with it, we know what it is. But my point is, I think it's in our best interest to more or less take a preemptive approach of saying, look, we want to make sure that the houses in Fitchburg are good. I mean, if you're an owner, et cetera, who knows, you might be able to benefit from blah, 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 blah at some point in the future. We want to make sure that all is well in our city. I think most owners of property will certainly, want to work with us as a team. What I'm afraid of is we go up and do an analysis and then come up and say, gee, we've looked at all your property and everything is bad, and now the person who's going to do the work will be the owner of the property. If it gets as part of our team in the beginning, it makes it a much easier sell when and if we have to maybe provide any kind of money, or they themselves will bring a part of their money to make sure that, yes, we are working as a team and we want it to be very, very successful.
So I'm just going to elaborate a little bit on what you said, Godwin.
Yes, ma'am.
So our team would be our group.
Yeah, we'll just go.
We're going to go out, we're going to kind of look at the neighborhood, and we're going to reaffirm based upon what we've heard, where there's a good investment on our dollars from Elevate. What our goal would be is to allocate dollars for Elevate and Sustain Dane to be our partner to do that work for the energy efficiency. And I think that's going to go a lot farther with an outside firm or group doing this than versus the city coming in and saying, they're going to have a better way of marketing the program and engaging because they're going to want to partner with us. They're going to want to do it, not us telling them they have to do it. There's a big difference there, I think. What you say, Mike?
Well, and it's making it available to them, just as we heard Abby talk about in Middleton. It's a program that property owners have applied for and to be
And
part
the
of. So
reason
we're
they
making
do
it
that
available
is
to
that
them.
they will start with them maybe at the early stages, so they know this is not something to hit them on the head. It's, look, we want to do something together with you. We have looked at this, we've looked at that, et cetera. If and when we have the facility, the ability to help, we will do that. But this is in the best interest of all of us here. The owner of the property says, yep, my building is getting, a little brush that it needs. People are taking a look at other things and feel. The point that I'm very sensitive to is that let's not go up and say, oh, this is what we think we need to do, and then eventually is the owner of the property that comes up and, writes a check. I want to make sure that it's part and parcel of the whole process. I mean, I think the approach you've taken is correct, but what I'd like to do is let's put in the back of our mind, owners of properties in Fitchburg, I'd like to see us also as a partner for them, and not just somebody who's going to hit them in the head and say, no, you did not do this.
I think it's meant to be more proactive and encouraging.
Yes, sir.
Offering than it is to be more the carrot than the stick.
Yes, sir. I think it's a better, what you call analysis on your part, yes.
I could see after we kind of do our tour and once we engage with Elevate and Sustain, actually having some information sessions in each of the 4 neighborhoods that we tour with our partners at Elevate and Sustain to say, here's the program, and we invite the property owners to just a general information session as part of our marketing and to get the word out that we have launched this type of program. And I think that would help. Then they can do the individual intake after that from people that are interested, but just as far as promotion and marketing.
Okay.
I just recall,
idea.
we did something similar to this, years ago, when we were doing the Leopold, wasn't it the Leopold and Arbor Hills neighborhood, where we kind of all went out and we kind of walked the neighborhood, and we saw a lot of things in there that needed to be addressed. Such as streetlights were poor, or you might see a mattress laying on the ground, or you might, just things like that. We want to get a feel for what the neighborhood really is. I mean, a trained eye, Brian can probably look and say, wow, I can see this door right there. It's not ceiling. So there's energy coming out of that door. I mean, you're gonna see things like that. You can probably see, oh, look over there, there's no caulking around that window. Look at the bricks cracked over here, and, things like that. That's what we wanna do. We wanna kind of just look at some of the things that are obvious to us, that are gonna reaffirm, yes, investing in energy efficiency is a good use of our resources. And I really love that they had the community engagement commitment for 5 years, that they would keep this rent at below the HUD rates. I think that's an important thing. And that's our goal, is to maintain affordability. So I don't know, we just thought it was a really
It's a good idea.
good idea to really feel comfortable with the decisions that we're making. Because you have to remember, you guys are not only an advisory to CETA, but you're also to the Planning Commission and the council. So if we do this, there may be things we want to share with others.
Okay. I think I think we should do that. I think it's a good idea, but let's make sure.
Oh, darn it, you're going.
No, it's not right. I just want to make sure that, in doing this, let's make sure that there is opportunity for owners of the property to also be part of this parcel out there. I don't want us to go up and decide what we think they need to do without even talking to them, et cetera. It can be done, and I've seen that happen on several occasions with other entities.
Yep, well, this will be a program that they'll want to be part of.
Absolutely, that's.
We won't do it unless they're engaged.
Yes, madam, thank you. Sorry, Madam Chair, but
Any other questions?
Is there any thought that, if we come in and we do some improvements in targeted areas, that could basically be a pilot, and, this could be something that the entire population of Fitchburg could take advantage of? The experience gained doing those first ones can be applied everywhere else in the city, and, economies of scale take place, and we could, we could more affordably retrofit the many thousands of dwelling units we have here that are probably, 30-plus years old. What did I read in the comprehensive plan? Only some very small percentage of housing units in the city are newer than 2010. I think it was 3/4 or something are older than that. And could probably do with some retrofits. And so whatever experience we gain here, teams, private entities that do these retrofits could probably come through and do an awful lot of homes in Fitchburg.
I think having best practices, from a program, Mayor Hooley had even shared the program I know that Monona has specifically for single-family homes and kind of energy efficiency programs. And so I think, it could be expanded to areas even outside of the 4 neighborhoods, eventually, depending on resources, of course, that we have.
Okay. So if everyone could check their calendars and see if that August 14th date would be, if you'd be available, and we'd like to get something on the calendar.
That day. Let me see.
Marshall,
Is it August?
do you have any comments? I know that you have a lot of experience in affordable
Well,
housing.
Well, not so much with rehab, a little bit more with new construction. You know, a lot of things hide behind walls, interior and exterior. But I think the neighborhood walk is great. I think that the Sustain Dane and the other program have a great idea because you're going to connect the home or the building owners to the contractors that can help them do what they need to do, which is a big challenge when you're small property owner. So that to me sounds really good. I like that idea. I think we should do it. I will say I do have a problem with August 14th, but I might be able in the ensuing months to get someone to help. My daughter-in-law is having surgery that day. So yeah, I'm kind of drawn in a couple of places. I have grandchildren that I need to take care of. So, but yeah, I think that's good. I think walking it, especially if we have the building inspector or someone who has a really good eye on assessing the maintenance that's gone into a building. Sometimes you can catch that just by how well kept the property around the building is, right? That people take pride in and care about the structure that they own. So.
Great.
Okay, good idea.
Anybody else have any comments?
Do people like the idea of doing one in September, one in August and one in September? Or would you rather like do 2 weeks back to back in September? Is that harder to do as far as a commitment? Is it better to kind of stretch it out?
One thing that we may want to consider, September is the fall equinox and the sun goes down at 6. So how much of this are we planning on doing in daylight versus nighttime? Would we want to do it earlier in the year rather than later?
Yep. Good point.
Add to that, kids are going back to school, so September is really a tough time for most parents. That's want to take that last, trip, and that's it. So it's not my problem, but we should be sensitive.
So we'll shoot for the 2 dates, the August 14th, right? Okay.
Go ahead. All right,
Marshall?
I see the scattering because there are a lot of people that work and your time is really short. But I think for memory recall, as you're walking through someplace, the 2 weeks back to back gives you a better visual comparison, than the month in between, because you remember much easier than you would later, right? There could be falling leaves in September and dry grass in August, and it's just going to give a different view. I'm good with either, but I mean that would be one say to do 2 maybe in August instead of 2 in September, or whatever works out best for the majority of the group. It's fine with me.
Okay. All right. Do we have any do a report from the department?
I'll give a couple of reports, Madam Chair, okay? First off, I'm going to share my screen here on a couple of things. First off, as we talk about kind of the inventory and supply here in Fitchburg, the planning department is launching 2 future urban growth area neighborhood plans. We're contracting with MSA, is going to be the consultant for both of those neighborhood plans. So the blue one here on the western side of the city in the Verona School District is the South Stoner Prairie neighborhood plan. And then the other one that we're doing simultaneously is the rust-colored one here, which is the Greenfield subdivision, which is in the Oregon School District. And that's about 900 and some acres. The South Stoner Prairie is just under 300 acres. So MSA will be leading the process for both of those neighborhood plans. There will be a steering committee that will guide the process, working with our planning staff and MSA. And then the projected timeline is both of these neighborhood plans will be completed by the end of the first half of 2024. So just wanted to keep you apprised of that process going forward so you can kind of watch and follow along. One thing that's going to happen during this process is normally we have to go through a neighborhood plan, and then we have to work and put together another document that is what goes forward to CARPC for the urban service area extension request. CARPC's piloting with us to be working hand in hand with us on these neighborhood plans. So when we finish them, hopefully that document will be our submittal that will ultimately go forward to CARPC. So ideally, it will save us some time on the back end to actually proceed with urban service area amendment requests going forward for that. So we've got the money for both neighborhood plans, and like I said, MSA has been selected, and the contracts are flowing through our finance and council. So once they've got those contracts signed, then they'll launch the process. So we just wanted to keep you filled in on that. And then just for big picture perspective, once we finish the neighborhood plans at the end of the first half of 2024, then our planning staff is going to start to focus on doing a major comp plan update. We're required by state statute to do that every 10 years. The last one was in 2019, but we really did a limited kind of update at that point in time. The elected officials directed staff to just focus on kind of the existing urban service area, and we didn't do a full-blown update for our comp plan. So starting in the second half of 2024, we're going to launch another major comp plan update as well to do a full-scale kind of review of Fitchburg at a glance. And then hand in hand, something I know that Brian's interested in and something that Olivia had also mentioned. Hopefully, once we go through after that process of the comp plan update, that will lead to a zoning ordinance kind of review and update. I'm not sure on the exact timing of that and where the dollars are coming from, but that is on the radar screen. I'll let you chime in if you want.
So one of the things, two things with the zoning rewrite. I was actually in Washington, D.C. last week lobbying on the housing industry with our legislators and had a conversation with HUD Secretary Marcia Fudge. And later last week, she announced there's actually some grant money that is now approved through HUD for zoning rewrites for municipalities. I can't remember if it's $75 million or $85 million through HUD for zoning rewrites. So while I know staff time is limited, it might be advantageous of us to move that a little bit quicker than waiting till 25 or 26, because there's some grant money out there now that we could get. The second part of my comment with our planning and everything is with certain projects and the way the code is written now, even looking at our 10 townhome project that we kind of looked at for design, unless that project is fully fronted on one street, it will probably have to be a condo project, which has other financing hurdles to it that will probably make it less affordable. And so I see a need that if we're going to try to address affordability in housing and try to get more workforce housing in the city of Fitchburg, the current zoning as it is, whether it's smart code or Euclidean, if you want to have fee simple ownership of a 0 lot line house, not duplex, but a house like 10 townhomes, it can't be built in Fitchburg right now. So we need to rewrite the zoning to make that work. So there's kind of a twofold opportunity and a need right away to move that zoning rewrite a little bit sooner. So.
Interesting.
And then two other updates for you. Again, going down our 3 tracks here of different affordable housing programs that we've been discussing with this group. Our rent-to-own townhome program, where we're at with that one is, I think we'd reported that administration had asked us to do more due diligence on the risk identification and the risk mitigation. We had a legal services RFP out where we received 1 response from Quarles and Brady, or Quarles, I guess they're called now. And we've received a legal services document from them, an agreement that is being vetted right now by administration and our city attorney. And we're hoping to refer that out at the second meeting in June at the council. And then it would come to CETA, and it would come back to council the last meeting in July. And then hopefully we would be able to engage with Quarles to do that legal services work for us with the risk identification and mitigation. And then ultimately, we would take that forward to council and the policymakers to say, here's the additional due diligence information, risk and reward and gathering that we've done, the partners we've reached out to, and then get kind of a pulse check from them of if do they want us to proceed with an actual program, pilot project and program after that. We had to kind of take a step backwards as the administration wanted us to do more due diligence, and Joyce and I have been spending a significant amount of time over the last 6 to 9 months just reaching out to a lot of partners and doing a lot of information gathering and working with our H&A advisors and consultants. But we're at this legal services step right now. So just want to keep you apprised on that one. And then the other one is our idea of the affordable units within a market rate building. I think we've shared before that that was an idea we got from a tour of John Fladd's building in Shorewood Hills, both the Boulevard and the Lodge out there. And 10% of the units in each of those developments are at 60% of median income. And then Shorewood Hills provide a TIF assistance for that affordability. So we have a draft of scope of services from our financial advisors, Ellers and Associates. They know us well. They kind of know how we approach TID and our methodology and thought process. So we've got a scope of services, and Joyce and I met with them about 2 weeks ago, and they are going to be hopefully putting together some draft program parameters that we would ultimately bring forward to this group and to CETA and the council to maybe taking a look at launching a program like that. One potential project that is interested in maybe being a pilot for us of this program, the two gentlemen from Adventure Capital, Mike Thorson and Ned Hoyt, who are driving a lot of the redevelopment mixed-use projects on North Fish Hatchery Road. They've done the Terrace Point. They've got Oshala Springs just east of UW Credit Union that's taking occupancy in July. And now they've broken ground on a new one right along Index Road that is right now named Avalon, just because it's part of the Avalon parcel there abutting Index Road. That project right now has 170 units that will be market rate. But for if we develop this program and the program parameters, and they're still interested in working with us, and we have to kind of be at a decision point to September or October of this year, they still are interested in possibly pivoting to incorporate 10% of the units in that building at 60% of median income. So once we kind of get our first kind of draft from Ellers, we'll be sharing that information with this group to kind of get your input and feedback and ideas as we go forward. But that's another way to try and incorporate new affordable housing units and reach that threshold of 60% of median income. So those are kind of three of the buckets that we've talked about as far as utilizing some of the TIF for housing dollars that we have in the bank now. So we'll keep you posted. So a lot going on, even though we only meet quarterly. Joyce and I have been spending a significant amount of time kind of tracking and meeting with each of these. I'm wearing Joyce out on some of this stuff, but we've got a lot going on simultaneously here. But as we just discussed earlier with the efficiency and the revitalization, we want to get some decision points so that way we start to deploy the funds and get some things done with these dollars. But a lot going on, and hopefully we actually become and launch some pilot programs, like you articulated, Bill, and maybe I know Olivia at the county is watching and kind of seeing our progress, because these may be some things that are incorporated even in regional housing strategy, ideas going forward.
There is a lot going on, isn't
Yeah.
there? It's just amazing.
I got a comment on that, Mike. The most recent version of the comprehensive plan shows that nearly a quarter of Fitchburg households make just barely over 50% of median income. So when we're talking about 10% at 60% AMI, that's just, it's not enough, right? So what do we envision the future is like when we have that largest share of our households just being priced out indefinitely? How do we get more affordable units than just 10%?
I think it's a combination of multiple strategies. First of all, we just need more housing units in general. they're not only single-family, but we need to get the multifamily market back into equilibrium. Right now, the rent increases that people in our properties are experiencing and all across the region here are significant. So we need to get more supply to get the market back to kind of a healthier vacancy rate there, because we're, at 1% or less. As soon as these buildings open up and take occupancy, they're just about fully leased.
And the core program has ended as well, so rental assistance is now gone.
Right, yeah. I think with our first attempts at affordability here, we are being realistic as far as the resources that we have to kind of utilize. And so we know that the market is reaching some of the 80% threshold there as far as workforce housing. That's just happening based on market dynamics, even as we talk to folks like Mike and Ned from Adventure Capital. They're not reaching the 60% threshold. But we have to be realistic as far as the resources that we have available right now. So we want to try this to see how it works and see if this is one model. I think another model is to work with developers that are skilled at the Section 42 tax credit, programs, to look at other kind of levels of affordability. And we've done that, before out here, but we probably need to find new projects and new partners for new developments, in Fitchburg. Recently, it's been mainly senior housing that we focused on with the Section 42, but as Nate knows, we did Maple Lawn specifically, back in the day, but we probably need to bring a few more new projects forward for all age population and families and everything there. So a lot of work to be done, but that's where we've kind of focused in, our efforts at this point in time, because this is new for us, and there's only two of us here. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that you'll hear from us when the budget process starts for 2024 is we are going to request a housing position through the city. So don't be surprised when you see a request come forward, just because there's more need and attention that needs to be given to this. Joyce and I are scrambling and trying to keep a lot going forward simultaneously, in addition to all of our other hats and work. But we could really use, more dedicated assistance that's focused on this more full-time. That would be in everybody's best interest, for the city as a whole, but also for the committees and also for the policymakers, to be able to bring things forward more efficiently and effectively, too. So bear with us as we kind of hopefully are ramping up our experience and skill set, and everything here, and hopefully we add some capacity as well.
I guess.
If I get-
Go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that I know the housing industry and the Wisconsin Builders Association, combined with the realtors and I believe the League of Municipalities, are working on a housing affordability bill that's out there right now, that's working on criteria for a WIDA loan program that will have to have requirements and multifacets, but to hit that 60% median income for the tenants that are in the building, or if it's ownership. But in order for WIDA to, one of the criteria that will be on that loan program is that the municipality will have to show what cost-saving effects it is implementing and putting towards that project as well. And right now, Fitchburg doesn't have a policy for reducing impact fees on parks, reducing impact fees on infrastructure, or reducing impact, design on roadways. And so the industry is trying to help create a loan program that can help this, but municipalities need to get out of their own way a little bit and see that it's the upfront costs that go into housing and construction that guide what the rents will be on the back end. And programs are great to assist with existing housing stock and to help those that are in those. But if we're really setting a goal for construction or new development to help in that, we got to see how we can reduce the costs up front so that the housing costs less, so that the rents are less. If we keep adding these fees and energy requirements onto new construction, we're going to price ourselves out of affordability. There's just, it's a, I don't know what you call it, it's a give and take. As energy efficiency goes up, the costs go up. So if we want affordability and keep the rents down or the pricing down, we got to figure out how we can offset that with reducing costs elsewhere. One thing that kind of, and this is a slightly separate subject from the weed alone, but there is a new energy code that's out there being talked about right now in the industry. And if it gets approved by the IRC, and in Wisconsin we have our own UDC, but if it gets approved by the IRC, it will add between $25,000 and $35,000 to each individual house just by this new energy code. Your affordability of housing just went right out the window if this gets adopted. And I know we all as a goal want to have energy efficient homes, but the thing we got to remember is perspective. 20 years ago, the homes that we were building had R9 in the walls and R25 in the ceilings. Right now, the homes that we build have to have, R20 in the walls and R50 in the ceilings, and double pane windows that have an R value or a U value. The furnaces have to be minimum 93% efficient, not the 75s that we had back then. So when we talk about new construction and energy costs and energy codes, we need to keep in mind that the homes we're building now are so much more energy efficient, which helps with people's monthly payments being lower, that we don't want to over criteriaize the energy efficiency to make things not affordable. So just something to kind of think about. But that WIDA bill, or the housing affordability bill that's going through committees right now at the state level with that WIDA program, I'll get the ledge bill number when it comes out, but I really encourage everyone to reach out to their legislators and push and support that, because that's one way where we can, I think, have some state funds to help reduce mortgage. It's a interest rate of, I think, 2 or 2.5% for the loan. It's a really good program, but there are criteria that municipalities have to meet to hit that program as far as holding back costs on the upfront development. So.
One side note, just we had heard from Olivia that with the regional housing strategies, they had also talked to Chad Lawler, Madison Area Builders Association, and just the labor issue, there. I would just mention that the Madison Area Builders Association, the Boys and Girls Club are having their white party for the grand opening of the McKenzie Workforce Center. They're over at the former Thermo Fisher building right along Verona Road on Saturday, July 15th. If you're interested, tickets are available online. I think that I would encourage you to take a look and kind of support that initiative, because that's kind of a long-term kind of workforce development initiative to help build that workforce, specifically in the trades industry, and kind of a really neat pilot project originating here in Fitchburg, Greater Madison, that they're replicating in other areas of the country with partnerships. So really positive thing.
Yeah, and the goal of that program, it's that Boys and Girls Club partnership now has been copied nationwide with the National Association of Home Builders and local associations everywhere with Boys and Girls Clubs. And the goal of that, as we found out, is to get into younger kids. A lot of kids determine when they're going to, what career paths they don't want to take by the time they're in the 5th or 6th grade. And so the Boys and Girls Club has that age demographic from 2 to 25, and a lot of the programs in high schools and stuff get at high school students, which is great, but we're trying to get into the younger kids with the Boys and Girls Club to make sure that they at least keep construction or the trades as one of their options rather than eliminating it at a young age. So we're working on trying to help with the workforce as well.
And Madam Chair, if I can just continue with, I'm going to give you the TID updates, okay? As was mentioned earlier, we are running 3 tax increment districts simultaneously, which again is unprecedented. But what is exciting about it is the 3 tax increment districts all are in some of our, or they are all in healthy neighborhood initiative areas. So we're really focused on reinvestment, revitalization in these particular neighborhoods. So what I'm going to do is just show you, I'm going to flash up some maps quick here that shows you the geographic area that we are including. And the first one we're going to start with is TID number 10 up on the Fish Hatchery Road corridor, where we've already had a TID in place, but we're coming forward with our second amendment here. So the dark blue color was the original TID, and then our first amendment was the lighter blue color parcels there. With the second amendment, now we're going to be bringing in the red colored parcels. So Part of the reason for doing this is this area here up on the Fish Hatchery Road and the Beltline. This was previously the town of Madison that with the intergovernmental agreement became officially Fitchburg at the end of October. So that's one area. And one project cost item, if you've driven on Bryant Road here, it's in desperate need of reconstruction. So that's one of the project cost items that's included in the project plan here. The other area that we're bringing in is this area west of Index Road and east of Fish Hatchery Road. And that potential multifamily project that I referenced that right now will be market rate, but for us developing the program is right here on this lot that I'm circling. So the foundation's already in the ground and it will be market rate unless we're able to pivot and pilot our affordable within market rate housing come September and October there. So those are some of the items here. Another piece of exciting news that we're just adding to the project plan, and this is recent as of a meeting last week Thursday, so we're updating some of the project plan documents. This leg of Fish Hatchery Road down to McKee Road will be part of the bus rapid transit system. So our city staff met with the Madison Metro and the engineers working on that project, and we're looking at probably from Greenway Cross down to McKee Road, probably 4 stops or platforms, I guess they call them, for bus rapid transit. Probably at Greenway Cross and Fish Hatchery, Post and Fish Hatchery, possibly High Ridge or Traceway, and then, Caddis and Fish Hatchery, and then McKee Road. There. So stay tuned. This is kind of relatively new information just as of last week, Thursday, that I got the word that I need to put some money in the TID project plan. It's 80% federal funding at this point in time and 20% local match. So that's why we're updating this project plan right now. So stay tuned for more information on that as we're going forward. But this, as we've reported, maybe we haven't reported to this group, but you know, when we first did this tax increment district, the lighter blue area, it was on the hope that if we invested the public sector money to reconstruct Fish Hatchery Road, that the private sector would reinvest in the corridor. And we're proud to report that we've already met that goal, that we know we've got enough valuation in the ground that we can pay for Fish Hatchery Road reconstruction. So as I've now told our city administrator and our finance director, we want to get this TID on steroids to completely redevelop what was the town of Fitchburg in that northern part from Greenway Cross down to Hatchery Hill into the city of Fitchburg of today. So stay tuned. There's more to come, more projects that we're talking and private conversations about that will continue to drive reinvestment and revitalization in this corridor. Some exciting things to come.
Mike,
Yes.
apropos to the BRT line, the Madison Beltline PEL projects, they're talking about putting a park and ride in along, I think just north of McKee Road. I'm not sure exactly where, but in the general area of Fish Hatch and McKee Road.
Yes, I got that word last week. One kind of somewhere in that vicinity, and then one also along Verona Road and McKee Road was word that came back to me as far as around that initiative and park and rides. Any questions on the areas included in here? Okay, then I'm going to shift gears to the next one here, which is TID 16. And do I have to stop sharing the first one, I guess? Give me just a second on the technology here. So TID 16 now, as I mentioned, we got another 600,000 infusion from the town TID. That was closed. That goes into our affordable housing fund. But now we're going back into the Southdale neighborhood to create a brand new TID district to continue to drive a neighborhood reinvestment and revitalization on these parcels. So here is Rimrock Road, the Beltline, Highway 14, Ski Lane here. So these are the parcels that we've identified working with the Alexander Company that are still vacant and potential redevelopment. As you know, Rutabaga, just located here north of the pond, their facility. And we know there's some additional development projects for these 3 lots that kind of rim that's detention pond there. There's potential for some other flex industrial here, which would be really helpful and much needed space. We've got an area over here, townhome project potentially, that we're looking at along Rimrock Road. And then we kind of connect the area and we go to the west here to get to kind of the ski lane corridor, and especially this older kind of horizontal self-storage that we would love to see a redevelopment of to a higher and better use there. And then we've got a couple of buildings right here on the frontage road that are kind of in need of redevelopment and reinvestment there with the uses. So we're hoping that by bringing some resources and having something in our toolkit that we can pique the interest of the development community. Like these along the Beltline here, could we see some kind of multi-story mixed use with housing as well as commercial on the first floor? Just kind of looking at driving some mixed-use development in the neighborhood here. A couple of project cost items. Latitude 43 will be extended to the west, so that's in the project plan. And then there's been some concerns about, especially from the cycling community, getting from the Capital City State Trail that runs east and west. How do you get north safely to the Southdale neighborhood? So our engineering team has figured out on the west side of Ski Lane and County Trunk MM, a boardwalk that we can do through some wetlands and some natural areas there to help people traverse safely into the Southdale neighborhood. So that's another project cost item. We're also going to be doing we've got some dollars for what we're characterizing as kind of placemaking as well, just because this neighborhood is new to Fitchburg, and we want to kind of bring the amenities that are elsewhere in Fitchburg to this neighborhood. Everything from a welcome to Fitchburg sign to some of the banners that you see. We're also talking about, I have a vision of kind of having maybe an electronic kiosk in some of these neighborhoods that people could, in the case of our meeting agendas, where they could go to the kiosk and electronically access our meeting agendas as a way to communicate and reach out to various neighborhoods that are kind of disconnected geographically from our city center here. So stay tuned for those, but those are some of the items that we have in the project plan on that one. So this is TID number 16, Southdale neighborhood here. Then I just have one more to show you, and that's TID 17, which is on the west side of Fitchburg. There we go. On this one, we've been kind of holding off because we wanted to get past and finished the Verona Road reconstruction and the McKee Road construction there. But during both of those reconstruction projects, the city, we were proactive in working with our planning department to do 2 neighborhood plans. And so on the west side of the road, we did the Anton redevelopment plan, and then on the east side of the road, we've got the Arrowhead neighborhood plan. And now that the road construction is complete, we should be set for a good 20 years there, hopefully with Verona Road and McKee Road. We want to go all in to encourage implementation and realize the vision of the Anton and Arrowhead redevelopment plans. So these are the parcels that would be included all the way from Williamsburg Way down to King James Way and Capec Road there. And then we jump the highway and bring in Saris, Thermo Fisher, Circo, Playcon, and then we jump below McKee Road to bring in the theaters. And then there's also a building at 2919 Commerce Park Drive, which is one of our few vacant buildings. We're in a good situation where we don't have a lot of vacancy as far as vacant kind of buildings, but this is already attracting interest, and one that Joyce and I have submitted for a couple of RFPs for people that are looking. One is a biotech company, and one is a smaller manufacturing operation there. So again, we want to have something in our toolkit to drive reinvestment, revitalization. Along Verona Road there, we've got a couple more of those traditional horizontal self-storage sites that we would love to encourage revitalization. We've got a lot of vacant property between King James Way and Capec that we're already in some conversations about higher density, multi-story mixed use development. We really set the bar with the Class A office building that Dale Benjamin did at the corner of Verona Road and McKee Road to set the direction we want it to go in the neighborhood over there with the ingress and egress changes with the reconstruction project. So we want to keep that momentum going and go right up kind of Verona Road and hopefully encourage reinvestment, revitalization, and have some things in the toolkit. Some of the project cost items include a resurfacing of Anton Drive and then adding a bike lane and also sidewalks, because part of the Anton redevelopment plan was more placemaking and creating an actual neighborhood. Right now the properties are kind of disjointed, and how do we make it a more cohesive kind of neighborhood? And then we've got a power line that we need to either relocate or underground that's north of CERTCO for future expansion. And nothing on the horizon imminent, but to allow them to be able to expand in the future. There's a water lateral that would service the larger lot of Thermo Fisher. And then we have a bucket in our development incentive category to drive, again, reinvestment and revitalization. And the focus, especially in the Anton side of it, on the west side of Verona Road, is going to be density there and kind of that multi-story mixed use. We've also got a piece in there that would allow us to do an updated market analysis for the neighborhood plan, because when the Anton plan was originally done, the office market was a lot different than it is post-COVID. So we want to go back and just do a market analysis to determine what are kind of those feasible, realistic development opportunities. But we're really excited about all three of these areas because, like I said, they align with our healthy neighborhood initiatives and are kind of going back into some of the areas of Fitchburg that developed when we were still a town. And how do we kind of bring them into the city of Fitchburg of today and really encourage that revitalization and reinvestment. This doesn't include the quarry site across from Super Target. We deliberately left that out. There's a group out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, Colburn Hundley, that's working on a comprehensive development plan for that property. That would have kind of commercial abutting McKee Road, and then there would be higher density residential on the northern east-west where it abuts the existing residential. But we're going to let that kind of happen just through market dynamics there. And our city administration and the elected officials would like some a general revenue fund resources and not have everything be in TID districts as we encourage development in the city. So these project plans with the maps will go to the Plan Commission with a public hearing on July 18th. Then they'll go to council on August 8th, and then they'll go to the Joint Review Board for consideration at the end of August, early September. But by the start of fall, we should have hopefully 3 TID districts in place and some things in our toolkit to work with our private sector partners on hopefully some exciting projects, because there's already a lot of conversations and meetings that we're having with some folks. Just wanted to give you that update because there's, again, a lot. Usually we run 1 TID district at a time. It's unprecedented that we've got 3, but we're being very efficient with our Joint Review Board partners' time by having them do these all at one meeting. Bill?
Yeah, you've talked a lot about, the housing that you want to put next to Verona Road, next to, right up against Verona Road, right up against the Belt Line, kind of right up against Fish Hatchery Road. The noisiest, most polluted areas are right next to the roads that carry the most traffic. I don't know that it's wise to put housing right there. I mean, that's, and I think studies have shown, increased rates of asthma, increased rates of dementia, even for people who live within 100 meters of a roadway. Has that point been brought up in any of these discussions, and what is current, best practice as dictated by whoever happens to be the expert in this?
I don't pretend to be an expert myself, and in the areas that you're talking about, I definitely don't have any knowledge. I think we've been kind of watching what's been happening in our neighboring communities with the city of Madison, Sun Prairie, Middleton, where, especially along the transportation corridors, you're seeing an urbanizing and a densifying of those areas. And like up on North Fish Hatchery Road, part of the premise of bus rapid transit is those dense neighborhoods exactly along those BRT corridors in order for that to be effective and successful, there. So I think that's why we're looking at kind of following similar models, just like Madison has done on East Washington, down Park Street, Middleton has done downtown, and just, would that be east of the Beltline, out there? Sun Prairie's done off some of their major highways and everything. We're just kind of following some of those models that have been happening here regionally. On the asthma and the dementia stuff, like I said, I haven't seen any studies or analysis of that, but it doesn't seem like it's prohibiting our neighbors from moving, in that direction as we all look to increase the supply of housing, in the region where we're 9,000 units short and trying to catch up, in the housing market there. But I don't know if anybody else has any expertise or perspective to share on that.
I guess I would just comment that aligns with what our zoning allows for too. So I guess that would be a consideration, really. You're just following the plans that are out there. So I guess if that's something, we maybe need to look at that when we redo the comp plan.
Specifically, like in the Southdale neighborhood, when that plan was done, it was premised on transit-oriented development and about activating the rail line there. Now, we haven't made any progress on that because, right now at the state capitol, we're prohibited from creating a regional transit authority, in the greater Madison region. And until we're able to have that mechanism in place, it's going to be hard to, look at transit beyond the BRT kind of regionally. Without having that mechanism in place. But that plan was specifically premised about transit-oriented development down that whole Highway 14 corridor and the rail line. And that's why you see a lot of the density that's envisioned even in uptown Fitchburg and even on the Hartung property that we just are working on a comprehensive development plan with a lot of density between those two major infrastructure, the highway and the rail line.
We're a little after 7, so I'm going to make my that's okay. Just going to make my comment very quick. One thing I just wanted to mention that Mike, myself, and city administration are meeting with Elevate and Sustain Dane later this week. They've found a possible grant with some significant dollars if we choose to do the energy efficiency program. So we'll provide an update once we learn more.
No more announcements for the city? Oh, that one?
Do you want to announce it? We just would like to invite the public to participate in the Festival of Speed that's coming up on July 8th. And even if you're not a cyclist, if you want to come out for the end of the races, early evening, there's music, food, beverages, and then it'll culminate with Fitchburg Community Fireworks, probably around 9 p.m. That evening. So we just want to welcome all Fitchburg residents and guests and visitors to participate in the Fitchburg Community Fireworks on Saturday, July 8th. It's down here in the Agora Fitchburg Center complex area.
What are we racing?
It's an actual bike criterion race. It's one of the
cool.
State championships. I think it's a really prestigious race, and it goes all day long out there. But like I said, even if you're not a cyclist, if you kind of come out for the end of the race, it's kind of fun to see the end of the race as they're all circling around the Agora to get to the finish line there. But it's meant to be more than just the bike race and the criterion. It's hopefully evolving into a community festival, and that's why we're encouraging with the music, food and beverages, and then the fireworks.
Wonderful.
Well, then I'm going to give a plug for it's our 40th anniversary. So there's at the July concerts at McKee, we're going to have birthday cake. There's some retro tote giveaways at the farmers market. Kelly Moss is having a car show on Saturday at the Agora. So check out the 40th anniversary page on our city website for updated events that are happening throughout the year.
Wonderful. Well, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
So adjourned.
This is a hot one.